Hello everyone and welcome to my podcast, Look Beyond. The podcast where we try to go deep and go slow in a topic that is relevant and also one that I'm super curious about. And it's not the first time AI have been on the agenda, but we'll do it again today and try to get into all aspects of AI. And today with me I have a very special guest. I have Adam, the CEO and the founder of Quantium, and over the last few years where we have done joint ventures together, Adam also become a good friend of mine. So I know you are super passionate and have a lot of thinking and about AI, but also how to apply it not only to your own business, to your clients, but also to your passion for NIL. You're the chairman of the Bulldogs as well. So it's such a pleasure to have you here, and I hope we can spend this next 60 minutes just going a little bit deeper into some of the opportunities with AI. So, Adam, first of all, welcome to the podcast, Look Beyond. You founded the Quantium back in 2002 together with your co-founder at that point. Were you just so clever that you knew that AI, that'll be the next thing and you need to start early? How did the journey start? Now you're a massive company.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Kim. It's great to be here, and looking forward to the chat. I mean, I wish I could say quite like the way you said. I mean, a little bit yes and a little bit no. So I think, my background, I'm an actuary by qualification, so I was always into numbers and modelling and so on. So I was working, like most actuaries at the time would work in insurance and that sort of work. So I was doing work, pricing insurance products for insurance companies as a consultant and so on. And so that was very much about using data to help companies make better decisions around customers to make money. So, Greg and I started working. Greg was initially a client and then he was a colleague, and we did get to a point to say, well, hold on, why is it just insurance companies that are using these sorts of skills? It should be other industries as well. There's a lot of potential to be using both data but also modelling and AI. Although AI wasn't such a buzzword then in that sort of space, to make better decisions. So yes, on one hand, we did have the foresight to say, surely every company is going to be wanting to make better decisions using data and modelling and AI. On the other hand, did I foresee all of the changes that we've seen in the last 25 years? Well, no. I mean, to be honest, I get blown away every year by the things we see. But it's been an amazing ride.
Yeah, and now you have also, it's a long time you have now been the CEO of the company, and of course it started with one focus. And if you look at that journey, what is some of the bold things and things you are proud of on that journey? But also, what is some of the things that you thought, we did a mistake there? Because you've seen it all these 25 years. So many things have happened, not only for your own company, but for the corporate Australia. Yeah,
a great question. I think, there's a lot of different things. Some of them are around talent and people and some of the good things we've done there, and some of them are around technology and what we might have done. So I think maybe there's one moment in particular I think of when you ask a question like that. So many, many years ago, so in the early days of Quantium, there was no competitor. So literally companies would say to us, who else is doing what you do? And we would say, we genuinely can't think of anyone else doing this. So it seems a bit weird in 2025 to say there was no one else doing what we did in Australia. But we would ask for a meeting with someone and people would say, you know what, no one has ever wanted to talk to me about how they could use our data to make decisions. So I'll take the meeting because I'm intrigued. Like these days, everyone's talking about it. So that sounds ridiculous. But I remember when we first started working with Foxtel, for example, they'd never ever looked at their customer data to see what they could do with it. Now that might sound ridiculous, but their customer database was only a few years old itself. So they were in the early days of setting up a CRM system and a customer database. So someone like Woolies back then didn't have a loyalty program that captured customer data. So it was a very different environment to today. But so we didn't virtually have any competitors. So we were never in a position where we'd be writing a pitch against another company. If we wrote a proposal and someone didn't want to do it, it was because they just didn't see the vision that we had or the idea, or they didn't have the budget, as opposed to we lost to a competitor. Anyway, one day we were asked by a client who was a friendly client. We'd worked with this person before, and they said, could you write us a proposal to do X? And I remember very clearly what it was. It was could you help us cross-sell motor insurance policies to our customer base. And I think they had largely home insurance customers or whatever it was. And we said, sure, we wrote the proposal of what it would be. And then they said, oh, listen, we've gone with another company to do that. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, we've lost to another company. And it was a friendly client. He said, listen, we actually really like the approach we did. We'd like to work with you, but they brought data to the problem that you don't have. And so I said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, they've got the renewal dates of customers. So they've got a database of everyone and when their motor insurance policy renews. So they will be able to market to those customers at that time. And there's only a 6-week window when your insurance is due, so they know when it is. So I said, well, of course you're going to use that company. Like, we're trying to model that. You've got the actual. So it was a real wake-up call. I was like losing our first thing. I mean, it wasn't even a big proposal, but it was a moment where we said, hold on, great data is going to be more valuable than great AI or great modelling. And so we realised we had the people, we had the tech skills, but we didn't have the data. So it forced us to go back and say, hold on, what's the opportunity here? There's an opportunity to not only have the right tech skills and people, but to build out data assets. So that meant we said, okay, well, what could they be? So we formed a partnership with NAB back then, this was back in 2007, where we approached them and said, listen, you've got all this bank transaction data. We think we could help you create insights of it. And they weren't really using that transaction data. So they said, oh, well, we're not sure that there's anything there. Kind of have a play with our data. And, we went into their offices and see what you can tell us in our data that we don't know. And so we did that, and they said, okay, that's really interesting. And so that started that, which then led to Woolworths data and led to a lot of other things. So I think it was a big moment for us about seeing the value of data, not just modelling. And I think that's the same thing today. Today, everyone wants to talk about AI, and I love AI. I could talk about it all day. But so much of it also comes down to those foundational data assets that you've got to feed into AI to truly get the right leverage. So you need the people, you need the tech, and you need the data. So that was a big moment for us.
Was that moment also where you somehow, because you've been very innovative, not only on the data and AI, but also on the business model and ecosystem, and we have a joint venture together, but you have that with us as well. So was that moment somehow, because it seems like when you then went to NAB, that was to create a different kind of partnership.
Yeah.
Was that a founding thinking for all that?
Not then, no, it wasn't. Again, we kind of stumbled into that, if I'm honest. So that came about from Woolworths first approached us and said, so we took this idea to Woolworths. We said, listen, we've got this NAB data. We think we could give you some insights into your customers. And we didn't hear from them. And we'd never worked for Woolworths up to that point. Woolworths didn't really spend any money on analytics back then. And they came back to us 6 months later. It was one of those weird ones we thought, we thought you weren't interested. And they said, listen, we've been thinking about that pitch you gave us the whole time. We've got our own data. We think we could do a lot with our data with suppliers. And we've started doing a little bit, but we don't do it very well. Could we have a conversation about that? So we said, of course. And then they said, but to do it, we want to do it together. Like we think we're bringing a lot with our data. We think we could create a business. And we had no thoughts of raising money or having a shareholder or anything at that point. But we loved their data and we could see what you could do with it together. And so we kind of stumbled into that. We went from having no... If they'd have come to us and said, do you want to form a joint venture, we would have said no. But it started with their data and what we could do together. And then that business model started becoming more obvious. So, the NAB thing that we had, by 2007 that model worked. By 2018 or whatever, it wasn't really a match fit for 2018. By that stage, you need to be in a point where you're working on a client system like we do with Telstra. You're working on the Telstra tech stack. Data's covered by your cyber, all that sort of stuff. So we've got a joint venture now, but it's very much Quantium team and culture and IP combined with Telstra data, Telstra tech stack, Telstra security is the right combination. So, so we've now got a joint venture with CBA. So it kind of took a lot of the same ideas, but it was the right joint venture with CBA. It worked for CBA, worked for NAB at the time. So, so we kind of stumbled into the model. And to be honest, as you know, joint ventures aren't easy. So I don't recommend joint ventures lightly. It's not easy to be in joint ventures with multiple companies, but I think if you can get them right and you've got the right relationships and the right you've got a mutual interest and you both bring a lot to the party, then you can get you through a lot of tough times as well because you're in a joint venture rather than just a transactional relationship.
Well, maybe before we go to maybe more a founder experience advice, it seems like, and we know that in life as well, a lot of things is coincident, but you somehow need to ensure that the coincidence hit you more successful than the opposite. And it seems like in the whole journey of Quantium, you have been curious of always exploring how to get more out of it and how to evolve it. Because if you just stick to one model, then maybe Quantium have not been that big success as it is today. So what is your experience and advice based on your learnings over the last many years?
Okay, well, great question. So, I mean, 100%. If we were doing what Quantium did in year one, we would have folded a long time ago, because the work we were doing in year one is just table stakes today. And you can go back and look at the technology, and it's a laugh compared to today in terms of the scale of what you can do. So, yeah, for a business like us to be successful, we've had to constantly reimagine what we do, and to be honest, constantly stay ahead of clients and competitors that we think, yes, what we did 2 years ago, we've now built on that and we're doing more so we can bring clients on the journeys. Yeah, so for me, I've always had the attitude I want to learn something every day. And I don't formally write it down and say, what did I learn today? But it's that more of a mindset of thinking I'm always interested in learning. And that might be learning, and so it's just being curious and always trying to find a better way to do something that we do. And that might mean if you make a mistake, what do we learn from that? But that can be challenging, because it can be challenging for the team when I'm constantly, the shadow side of that probably means that I'm never celebrating where we're at, and I'm always wanting to do better. So as a leader, I need to be conscious about the fact that I don't step back and go, look, it's amazing what we've just done in the last 12 months. I'm like, yeah, it's great that we've done all that. What are we doing now to improve it next month and the month after and so on? So the same mindset that is like a drive to constantly be better and do bigger things does have a shadow side. It can mean I don't step back sometimes and appreciate what we've done. Which, by the way, just to come back to your earlier question, it's not to say we haven't missed things as well. Like, there's a couple of moments in our time where I look and go, we missed something there, and there was an opportunity that others might have taken advantage of, and maybe if we'd have done that in Quantium, we could have had some more. So one was...
I mentioned cloud for me. Is that...
Yeah, so one was web analytics in the early days. Like, so as silly as it sounds, like just the whole analysis of web traffic, like it felt like at the time we missed something that some other companies formed around that. Now, to be honest, a lot of those companies almost don't exist today, so I'm not too worried about that. But cloud was the other one where, again, it wasn't so much using cloud, because we were, but just that whole supporting companies in their transition to cloud and all the data engineering and so on associated with it. We were doing that for our own purposes, but we didn't turn it into a solution for third parties as much. And so there's a lot of companies around that have done that. Now, on one hand, it's a miss. On the other hand, right now with AI and everything, I'm kind of thinking, well, maybe that business would be under threat a bit, I think, from AI today if we did do that. So we might have got a bit lucky. But yeah, I'm constantly thinking about what are we doing and what should we be doing.
Well, it's interesting, not to make comparison, but the most successful people in the world, they have this learning approach, and even what Satya did with Microsoft was to move that culture from know-it-all to learn-it-all.
Yeah.
And I think there is a drive in that, always learning. And I think when you mentioned that cloud thing for me, that was in, so you definitely, you don't see it as a failure, as you also see now, but you learn from it, because now we're moving from data analytic, generative AI into agents. And I remember you said, and I want to ensure this time I'm in front of the curve. So I want to go all in early, because this is a moment in time, probably similar to cloud. So again, it's probably back to that thinking that you learn from that. Instead of looking back and say, oh, that was pity, then you learn from it and just take advantage of it next time. Is that fair to think?
Oh, no, 100%. And I think that can be, it is, and people can misinterpret that, because I might ask a lot of those questions about mistakes that we've made, and people might think it's being critical or trying to find a fall guy or someone to blame for a mistake. It's not that. I would ask questions because I'm trying to think about what have we learnt from this, so that next time we don't make the same mistake, or we benefit from it. So, but yeah, so it's kind of it's a mindset of constantly looking back at things that you got wrong or that you got right, because you can learn as much from your mistakes or more from your mistakes as what you can from things that go well. It's like in football, you don't just analyse the wins and say, oh, if we had a win, we don't have to go back and watch anything. Our head coach at the Bulldogs scrutinises our wins even more than our losses to say, what are the mistakes that we made in that game that we might miss because we're celebrating a win, but there might have been things that we could have won by even more if we'd have fixed that and that and that. And it's the same in business. I'm always just trying to think about how can but it's just from a naturally curious mindset. So something like AI is a great time with that mindset because you've just got just the explosion in the technology at the moment makes it a very fun time to be curious.
Well, I know you're curious, and now when you say there's a flip side of that, and that is that people can perceive that as being critical. I know that you have built your own personal agent that coaching you. So do you sometimes ask yourself, and because we all know, I at least, and the audience here, they know that I'm sometimes the passion take over, and then again also always lifting the bar, not always celebrating where we are. And I think afterwards, I could have done that differently. Yeah. And then you sit there and coach yourself. But I know you have built your own coach that helped you with that personal coaching and mirror. Can you? Because you use agents in such an advanced way. So tell us a little bit about how you use it.
Yeah, sure. So a couple of things. I think I'm very conscious that as a senior leader, suddenly your jokes are funnier. You don't get as much feedback. Everyone thinks you're funny, and you know that's not true because your own children hold you to account, and your wife doesn't find you funny. So I'm very conscious that I don't get the feedback from team members that could give me. So AI has been a really great tool to be able to use AI to get feedback that maybe other people don't share. So that's one high level picture. And because some people might say, it's hard to give you feedback. It's like, well, that's kind of more on you than on me. You might think I'm not open to feedback, but I am. So anyway, so I've found I've had more feedback in the last year from AI than I have from people throughout all of my career. So I'll give you an example of how I've done that. And I did one piece of work recently, actually. It was really fun. I analysed the last 12 months of my work in AI for the Bulldogs because I was going to see the New York Giants in New York. And I knew the first question they would ask me is, how have you used AI at the Bulldogs? And I wanted to be able to tell them how I've used it personally and everything I've done with it. So I spent about a weekend basically pulling out, and we use Claude heavily, but it doesn't matter the AI tool, but pull out all of the different stuff I've done in the year, to get it to write me a summary of everything I've done in the year and so on. So that was great. So I thought, now I've got all of this analysis of essentially the way I've worked over the last 12 months with AI. I thought I'm just going to ask it different questions. So I said, tell me 5 things from all of our interactions that I might not know about myself from those interactions, just to see what it said. And the things it said were positive. Like Claude was very friendly. It said, you don't realise the level of complexity of your thinking, you combine this, it does the really nice stuff that's, makes you feel good. And I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. And so I said, what might be the shadow sides associated with those strengths, or what are some constructive things I might have missed? And that was when it got interesting. It tells you things that, it's almost like every time, my attitude is every time you've got a strength, that probably means it brings a shadow side that some people feel. Some people love the strength and some people don't like the shadow. So for me, for example, one of my strengths, it said, was you're so into learning and so curious that sometimes that will mean you're always coaching people, and that can be a strength. That people will get a lot of coaching from you, learn from you, and some people will love that. The shadow side of that is you're always coaching people, and you consider you likely consider every conversation an opportunity to coach someone and tell them how they can be better. And sometimes people just want to be able to relax and kind of celebrate where they're at, rather than being coached of what they could be better, which can come across as critical. And then it said the ultimate shadow is that some people will love working with you from that, and some people will find you very difficult to work from because they'll find it critical and that you're always praising their performance and telling them how they can be better. And it's very fair. But not very few people will tell you that. But I read it and I reflect and I think that's very fair. I have to be mindful of that depending on who I'm talking to, how that lands. I don't think it means I necessarily change that attitude but I just need to be mindful that for some people will just be aware of it and know that not everyone will want to go at that same pace of change and curiosity, and particularly if I'm talking to Quantium as a whole. If I'm talking to 1,200 people, you've got the real range of personalities in there, and I need to be mindful that my messages don't just land for the curious people who do want to learn every day, but also learn for the people that, they just need to take it a little bit slower, and even though we're in a fast-paced environment. So that's an example of using AI but it takes asking the question. It takes saying, tell me what I might not know about myself. tell me the shadow sides of that, and I quite enjoy it. It's a bit of fun to find out what it says.
I think it's a good example, but because one of the things that become very clear for me, we are privileged, and we meet a lot of people that are clever and have a lot of thinking here. But one of the things that become more and more clear for me, both as a leader but also as an individual, is that I need to. The best way for me to differentiate as an individual or as a team or a function or a company or a nation is to take the subject matter expertise and apply as much AI to that as possible.
Yeah.
And that, I remember we were at an AFR conference a year ago, maybe a little bit more, and I remember you have a very bullish statement back then that get headlines as well, that you said to all the executives that sit there, including myself, that a few years from now, you will not be there, and if you be there, you need to apply AI. And I think I thought a lot about what I really take very serious is in a big company like Telstra. It's my accountability, it's our accountability, that I ensure that every employee in Telstra, no matter what we are doing, no matter if you're a group executive or you have other parts of it, we give people the opportunity to apply AI and learn about AI so they can bring that to their subject matter expertise, so they become the best version of themselves. So no matter if they work inside Telstra, they can be high performance, and that goes for me as well. If I'm not applying, Vicky can find another group executive that is better very soon. And at the same time, if you're leaving Telstra, then you have as good opportunities in life as possible. So how do you think about that? Because I think that's a big accountability, but at the same time, also very important for people to think about. It's not about AI alone, it's about subject matter expertise and AI.
Yes.
And I think from when we started the joint venture, that was really some of the things we discussed, that expertise combined with the analytics. And
No, you're right. So I think the comment I made at the conference was 30% of execs around the table won't have a job in 2 years' time around that table because they'll be replaced by someone else with the same skill set, but AI as well. And I truly believe that. To be honest, it's played out at Quantium, even without even thinking about it. I saw some stats the other day, I was like, wow, it's actually happened here as well, even though there was no conscious decision to do that. It's just been one of those things that happened. So, and I actually think it's going to end up conservative, to be honest. I think those numbers we're seeing when we talk to clients, and just because of the impact. So I feel a real responsibility within Quantium, for example, to say, how do we equip our team to be ready to do that so that we can also do that for our clients? And I think there's three real ways to do that. I think to be successful in an AI world, we need to give people the right tool set, we need to give them the skill set, and they need the mindset. So it's on, in my case, Quantium as an employer, or Quantium Telstra and you Telstra, it's on us to make sure we provide a tool set. Now, you can debate the tools and so on, but you need to give people some tools. You can't say, we're not going to give you any toolage at all. The skill set, again, that's largely on us to think about how we're going to train people, how we're going to give people opportunities to do this work, and how we're going to lead them in a way that says, we expect you to do this and we're going to change the way that we work. And I've driven that very strongly in Quantium to say, I have a very clear expectation that everyone will be using AI to support them in everything they do. So first of all, that was like giving them permission. Some people said, wow, I felt like I was cheating by using AI. You're actually telling me not only is it okay, but you expect that. So those people were relieved. But there was the other end of the spectrum. Some people are like, I fear that. I don't know what this could do. Is this going to take away my job? So, but the mindset is, it does come down to the individuals. And we can try and coach the mindset and try and say to people, keep an open mind, be curious. This isn't about taking your job. This is about making you better, amplifying you. This isn't about us cutting costs by 10%. It's about how do we grow 5 times with the same team, all that sort of stuff. But so much of the mindset still does come down to individuals. So I want to look back and think if there's any job displacement in Quantium, that I can say, well, it's not because we didn't give people the tools, we didn't give them the skills, and we didn't encourage them and give them the opportunity to thrive. It's that they, for whatever reason, they couldn't adjust and weren't open to adjusting. Now, I would hope in a company like Quantium that's very small, but and I think that applies in every company. I think all of us need to do that, and companies need to do it.
Yeah, I think, and you have really role modeled that, not only for Quantium, but for the whole corporate Australia, where you spend a lot of time with boards and management, etc. And One of our values is look beyond. So that's why here, because I think it's exactly that curiosity you're talking about, that go for everyone, no matter what they're doing. So tell us a little bit more, because that's always the way you use it in your daily life. And you are not only a CEO of Quantium, you are also the chairman of Bullock. So you use it in these two jobs. You use it personally. So give us a little bit more of these good examples.
This is why I did the analysis of what I do at the Bullocks, because my starting point to that is, well, I use it for everything. And so that's not very helpful, because it's a bit like if someone says, how do you use the internet? I think people would say, well, I use it for everything. So it's a bit like that for AI for me. So literally every part of my job, I use AI to help me. So that could range from if I'm thinking about strategy and how do I stretch my thinking on the strategy, I would be using AI to push my thinking. I'd be giving all the context of everything where I'm at, but then saying, give me more ideas, challenge me on this strategy, blah, 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 through to communication. Every communication, whether it's writing a speech that I give at the Bulldogs or Quantium, or a 10-second coaching conversation with a team member, how can I improve that? I would use AI to help me with that, because no matter how good I think some of us might think we are at communication, we can be better. And I know I can be better, and I know I feel equipped to be better. But it still has to be authentically me, but I would use it to get coaching. I would use it for, like I say, literally everything. Everything from writing KPIs for a team member to running performance reviews. I'm now recording all of my leadership meetings and having automated feedback for our team members as to how they performed in the meeting, through to how as a team we can be more effective. And that might sound like, oh geez, this sounds like Big Brother overkill. Your feedback. Well, yes, in a way, because like in my other job at the Bulldogs, I go out there, and this is part of what's driven me there. I go out there and there's 30 players in a top squad. You know, you've got a top 30 squad that go out and play that most people see when they see a football club play in rugby league. But there's probably 30 coaches supporting those people and coaching them to be better. They play a 2-hour game on the weekend and they train, and then there's people watching videos and analysing every second, freeze framing it, saying, we made that mistake there, you can change your body posture here, you can improve your mindset there. So we've got speed coaches that make everyone a little bit quicker. We've got mindset coaches that say, let's simulate this moment of a match, how would you cope with it? We've got coaches on everything. And I come back to Quantium and we've got 1,200 people and no coaches. Yet we think of ourselves as high performance. So I'm like, how could we use AI to bridge that gap to say, let's be high performance, let's analyse everything we do and let's be better at it. So a leadership meeting is an opportunity to do that. If I have a one-on-one conversation, my team members now, like we would record that conversation and use AI to get the transcript. Not to go back and say, Kim, you said this last week, you know, I've got it on tape. It's actually to say, how can we use it to, over time, make sure we're getting the right themes, we're talking about the right things. It's making sure we don't forget things and miss things.
It's that high performance culture from sport you with AI can bring into companies. Is that the right way?
Well, what we can't do at Quantium is suddenly say, well, let's have 1,200 coaches for 1,200 people. We can't afford it. You can't do that at Telstra. But so I want to use AI. I'm trying to think, how do I use AI to plug that gap? And we can. We can record meetings. We can build coaching tools like we talked about before to make available for teams. We can do all sorts of things. But it takes a mindset of thinking, okay, how would I coach the team at scale and how could I use AI to do that? So one of the things we're doing at Quantium is building digital twins of our leaders. And as we build that out, how do you make that available to everyone in the company? So if someone wants their work reviewed by me, maybe I might not know that person. They might not be someone I would ordinarily, be in a meeting with. But if there's a digital twin of me in AI that they could have their work reviewed by me, and that digital twin has been trained in such a way that it basically is me at my best and it's truly giving feedback that I would give, then that's a way that they could be coached by me as though they was a conversation. So that's the sort of stuff we're building out. And what we're finding is people say, oh, but is it very good? Does it actually be like you? And I would say, not only is it good, but it's me at my best. It's me if I'm truly dialed in and thinking exactly what I would do here, that's the feedback I would give. So I would say it's a better version of me than sometimes shows up. We had a team session. It was a really eye-opening moment where I did a 45-minute Q&A with the team, and they asked me some questions off the cuff, and I answered like you and I. You and I did that earlier with our Quantium Telstra team. And then one of the team members said, "Oh, by the way, we actually asked your digital twin those same questions before you came in to see what it would have said. I thought, this is going to be interesting because they didn't tell me they were doing that. I had no idea. And they showed me the answers that the digital twin gave to the same questions they'd given me. And say there was 5 questions. On 3 of them, the answers were almost identical. I couldn't believe it. They were long answers and they were so similar, it's not funny. One of them, I read and went, yeah, okay, that's pretty good. Like, that's something I would say. The other one, I read and went, wow, that's what I should have said. That is exactly what I think. But I didn't think of that in the moment because I was off the cuff. I gave an answer that was okay, but the other answer was exactly what I would have thought of if I'd have thought about the question beforehand. And so it was a real eye-opening moment to say, this digital twin can be me at my best. And so, I want to see that as a positive, not a negative. I don't look at that and go, wow, I could be replaced. I think, okay, well, how do we scale that across the company? How do we make that available so that we can all kind of level up and get better and now go on to create even better things? It doesn't mean we want to replace everyone. We want to do even better work. And part of the way is just to lift the performance of everyone. If you could lift the performance of everyone and the knowledge of everyone by 25%, that would be phenomenal. Like, you could achieve amazing things as a company.
I love that story. I really, and we all know that sometimes when you're under pressure, stressed and all these things, then you're not the best version of yourself. So this is also a way to help ensure that you actually get the best out of each individual in the company.
Yeah.
And Quantium is a big success. Bulldogs have not always been a big success. But I asked Copilot before I came here, and there is a good chance that you'll win the comp this year. And,
okay.
And I know you're not always trusting Copilot, but
I trust it now.
That was a selling one. But is that an example of being more competitive if you're applying AI more than us?
It's funny, Kim. I got asked. I had a journalist ring me a couple of months ago, and they wanted to write the story. What's the big thing that's changed at the Bulldogs to turn the club around? And so I was a bit taken aback by the question. I said, well, what do you mean? They said, was there a team bonding session? Did the team go out and have a few drinks and say, we're going to do this? Is there a slogan on the wall that everyone's walking past every day? Like as though it's a TV show, or something from the 90s when maybe that was a way to turn something around. And I thought about it and I said, it's not that at all. It's actually thousands of little things. It's every little detail getting it better. And so some of that sure might be AI. Some of that we can use AI to get better at. But equally, there's a whole host of things that aren't AI. So the first thing is it starts with the people. So having people who are aligned on the right strategy, just like in business. There's no different sport versus Telstra versus Quantium. You want to say, what's the right strategy and a long-term strategy? So for us at the Bulldogs, we are prioritising long-term success that's sustainable over short-term sugar hits. And if that meant that I lost my job as a chairman because in the first 2 years we didn't get there on the field in the top team, I was willing to do that, and that's okay. And we've got a guy, Phil Gould, who runs football, who also has been around a long time, who could have that mindset. But that could then give the freedom to a young coach to say, we don't want quick fixes, we want you to build this long term, and we've got the right coach to do that. Then it's about making sure everyone's on the same page of that strategy. And so we're all on the same page. And the same thing then, culture. Okay, we want the right people in the building, both skill set, we want the best strength and conditioning coach. Okay, that's a skill set. But it's also culture. We don't want people in the building that might look like they've got the best statistics in a game of football on the weekend to the average fan, but we know behind the scenes that they bring down the average performance of everyone else. Whereas there might be another player who maybe their stats don't look as good, but we know that the way they train lifts the performance of everyone. And it's not just that with the team, it's with every part of the business. So we've turned over a lot of people in to be the right culture fit and the right skill set.
Is curiosity and that, because maybe it's not AI, but the curiosity to use AI instead of relying on what we have done, is that a part of that culture?
Definitely, yeah. And so with football players, for example, you want people who love football. So that might sound silly, but back in the 80s, if someone played football, whether it's AFL, soccer, rugby league, whatever it was, it's probably because they loved the sport. And as a kid, they grew up, they loved the sport so much, they became very good at it, they became professional. These days, because it's professional, there's a lot of money, there's a lot of players who maybe they don't love it, they're just good at it. I was talking to, I was over in the NFL the other week, with the amount of money involved there's a lot of people doing it because they're big and strong and they can wrestle. They don't necessarily like the game. So if you can, for a start, be hiring players, just like in business, if you're hiring people that it's not a job, it's a passion, they just love it, then they will be thinking about it all the time. And when you ask them to train hard, they enjoy it. Just like if you ask people to be curious at work, they don't go, well, no, it's 5:01, I've got to go, I hate my job. They go, I love this challenge, I want to think about it. So it's about having people who love what you're doing, who are curious, and then it's all the other things. Like I'll give you a tiny example of a micro one. Our coach said, I'm asking everyone to be high performance and excellence, but we get on the bus and it's just a regular Murray's coach. It doesn't feel like they're in a sporting club. So I happen to know Ron Murray, the owner of Murray's Coach. I said, listen, we want a Bulldogs coach. We don't want the players just to get on a regular bus. We want it to be covered in Bulldogs, kind of our logo, our brand and everything, so that when players get on there, it feels professional. So we did a deal to do that. And that's an example of a 0.1%. Does that matter? I don't know. But enough of those 0.1% add up that then you say, now we're lifting the standard across everything. And again, I think it's the same in business. I think sometimes I might come across pedantic at Quantium because I want everything to be better. And I believe, high performance is it's a habit, not an act. You can't, just like in football, you can't show up on the weekend and win if you're not training hard during the week and you're not excellent at training. It's the same in business. We can't do amazing work for Telstra if we accept crappy work internally. Everyone needs to just have a high performance culture. So again, that comes with the shadow side, because that can see I'm critical when something might be internal. I say, well, that's not good enough. It's covered in spelling mistakes, because it just becomes part of the culture.
But I think it's such an important part of success. And I think we talk a lot about it with our new strategy. We just announced that one of the reasons why we can allow ourselves to have a long-term strategy is that we have done a lot of hard work over many years now, and with consistency. Because another thing, to your point, if you don't get that short-term win, then maybe we just pivot.
Yeah.
But we have actually been on a journey with discipline when it's come to architecture, when it's come to simplicity and all these different things. That's all the things that you don't necessarily see short-term, but if you get the hard things done, you're much better set up. So that foundation you're talking about there, I think we can really recognize that. And I think there could probably sometimes be examples where I also always feel that we can do a little bit more all over the place. And
that's what makes you a leader, right?
It can be exhausting for the organization. And I think our AI coach probably tell us that we need to stop and also celebrate now and then, but it's an interesting point.
Or surround us, like for me, the other way I look at that is surround myself with other people in the team that can offset some of my shadow sides. So that you have someone in your team where you say to them, listen, my natural style is to just keep pushing and not celebrate. I need you to help pull me up and you to find those opportunities to help do that, and maybe you can lead it or tell me when I need to recognise someone or whatever it might be. But just on those foundational things, I was just thinking as you were talking about, like, there's a number of them, right? Like one is just data and tech foundations. If you want to have a great AI platform within Telstra, you need to have your data and AI and your data platforms in the right shape. And I know you're doing a lot of work on that, and great example. But in a business like Quantium, it's also talent. Like, so we've over the years typically hired graduate talent. So we've built our business off graduates. We've always hired graduate talents and developed them and built them, because that's always been our best talent. It's not to say it's the only great talent, of course, but because it's very hard to hire talent laterally in the space that we're in. I see some people hiring, people are paying a lot of money. I'm like, oh, they don't realise what they're getting there. Whereas when we develop and build a talent, we know what we're getting. And it's the same thing with the Bulldogs, to be honest. Like, much better to recruit and build 15, 16, 17-year-old players and turn them into great players than pay top dollar for someone who has already achieved something in the career. That just becomes a difficult way to manage a salary cap. So again, a lot of similarities in sport and business for me there, which is about developing talent is part of that foundational
I remember
way for success.
One of the reasons why we were really keen on the Quantium Telstra joint venture 3 years back. We have been on this journey for 3 years now, Adam. That was really, if we looked at it and we looked at our own talent base, that was good. We could see that you're the one in Australia that got most AI grads.
Yeah.
And we really looked at Quantium as the place where there was most centered AI expertise. So you have always been focused on that foundation of talent, and to a large degree, at least until now, you were a people business.
Yeah.
And it's just interesting with this conversation. So when you're hiring talent and getting people in and also develop talent, it seems like, based on your experience now at Bulldogs, but also in Quantium, that things like the passion for business or for sport and the curiosity in these things is equally important to the pure tech talent, you can say. How do you
How do we balance that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very good question. I think for a long time we would be saying, to be honest, the technical bar to get into Quantium is very high. Like we got to a point a few years ago, which as you know, where we woke up one day and we found out that we had the 9th highest volume of all graduate applications in Australia to work in their first job. We were getting more applications than Woolworths was or big banks were, and this sort of stuff, and it was like, wow. And you think about it, only the people from the technical degrees could actually really apply to work for us. So we were very fortunate. We'd have a lot of applications to work with us, so we could keep the technical bar very high, and we still do. So we say, technically you need to be strong because that's what we're about, but equally, culturally you need to be strong as well. So if we don't think you're going to be a cultural fit, we wouldn't hire you, because it's just as much for you as for us, because it's not going to work out. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't keep evolving our culture and having people who are different. Like we have a very eclectic mix of people in Quantium. It's like a house. I kind of think it's a home for people who maybe at school were the one kid that was isolated and picked on for being interested or curious about computers, and now they find a home where they're like that at Quantium, and that's great. But if someone treats people poorly, we don't tolerate that sort of stuff. The kind of, are you a good person? We don't tolerate. Now, increasingly recently, the curiosity is something that we're dialing up, because I think for a long time at least for me, we might have overly correlated intelligence with curiosity. But I think, as I've seen through this AI wave, I do think there is a difference. You can be intelligent but maybe not as curious as someone else. So we are actively, we've changed our recruiting now to say we really want to test for that level of not just technical understanding and so on, but also how curious you are. Because let's face it, we know right now there's a lot of change, but in 5 years' time there's going to be even more change. We don't know what it is today. So we want people that we know can adapt to that change and enjoy it, rather than feel threatened by it and resistant to it. Now, I think that's going to be a key skill set in any worker going forward, is the ability to adapt to change.
Hey, Adam, one thing is, you have personal bots, you have company bots, or agents, whatever we call them. I think the next phase, as we see it, is really that some of these bots, agents, they become more active and they become more autonomous over time. So when is it already your agent? Is that already not only recommending, for instance, your travel, your tickets and these things, but actually do the work as well? So how far are you into that thinking, that I go from that being an advisor and a coach, co-pilot to me, you can say, to actually do work for me?
Yeah.
So I think for me that's a natural next step, but it's also a little bit of a tipping conscious step we need to take. So we need to be careful there as well. But how do you think about that next step?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. First of all, I think it's moving very fast. So the conversation I've had with tech companies like Anthropic or OpenAI, whoever it might be in Silicon Valley, is the tech is moving faster than people can. Yeah. I think people are still, the average exec or leader in a company is still working out how to write a prompt, let alone thinking about, could an agent replace what I'm doing here? So the tech is moving very, very quickly. One of the things we're conscious of within Quantium, I mean, I'm seeing lots of examples of people in our business who've built agents to replace things they've done or automate entire workflows. It's blown me away, like absolutely blown me away, which is great. We just need to be careful from a governance and a cyber point of view that these agents aren't doing things that introduce cyber risks. Like, we can't accept in our business, you clearly can't in your business either. So that's one thing I think we all need to make sure, that in the speed to market of some of this technology, that it's not going faster than the cyber side of it. And also just the ethics and other sides of it. Like, you need to make sure that if something's making a decision for you, that it takes into account all of the things that it should take into account. And so the governance and the ethics around these processes also need to move at the same pace. And so we're trying to prioritise things that we think might say for example, if it's writing code for us, great, but before you put in production or before it impacts a decision for a customer, like say it was a credit decision for a customer, you would need to be very, very confident that those credit decisions aren't biased, that they're transparent and all those things. And I think today that would be I would be slowing down on some of that stuff because I think the tech would get there quicker. But yeah, but otherwise I feel a responsibility to be moving fast. The big picture is we've got to move fast, but we have to be responsible, and that's the balance we've got to.
What about because we have discussed that as well. Do you expect there will be a bigger gap between the best companies and the companies that struggle to compete because of AI and the gap AI somehow create between the leaders in AI and the laggards?
Yes, yeah, definitely. And I think the same for talent. So I think a rock star is probably now even more. No, I kind of, it's don't know whether you use this language within Telstra or so on, but typically in tech, you might say someone's a rock star because they can just achieve more in the same number of hours than someone else for whatever brilliance they've got, whether it's their coding, whether it's their thinking, whatever it is. And I think with with that same rock star, if they're also curious, AI can now amplify that even more. So I think the rock star performers now are even more valuable and more rock star. And I think then the same about companies. Companies that are AI native or truly embracing it to challenge what they do and think differently, I think will be an even bigger advantage than those that don't. But we'll have to see that play out, right?
Yeah, no, it will be interesting. And one of the learnings I have is, especially implementing generative AI, is that there is not such a thing that buy and deploy and then it's there. So it's different to tools you have bought in the past. It's iteration. So that have also brought me to the conclusion that it's not an option to just wait and see and then get on the bus 2-3 years from now.
Yeah.
Either you're on the bus now or you'll be more or less forever behind.
I agree. So in Quantium, about just over a year ago, I kind of flipped our strategy overnight to say we're all in. Every single person default to every task you do every day. And that's kind of a mindset to say, I just want everyone thinking about how you use AI to improve the way you do it. I don't know what all those things are going to be, but I know it's going to be important. So a bit over a year later, that has come at a cost. Because of that being such a transformational type message, that means that some people have been more focused on that than maybe hitting their numbers. And I've accepted that during the year, and that's a hard thing to accept. And I know that some people in the business might disagree with that. They might say, well, we missed our numbers, how can we do it? But I've taken the approach that if we didn't transform quickly, that in 3 years' time, our business would be withering away and obsolete, So the transformation was more important than our numbers this year. Now, we still had a good year. We grew at 10% and whatever it might have been, but our target might have been to grow at 18%, and we grew at 10%. So it did come at a cost because we were so focused on our... So, for example, my leadership meetings, the amount of time that we spent talking about AI and transformation was very, very high versus our numbers. And I look back and think, was the balance right? I don't know, but it's kind of not too much point overanalyzing that. But I feel like the transformation has been valuable. And there's things that we've done during that period that I never would have envisaged. I'm like, well, I'm very glad we're here now, and I'm very convinced it was the right thing to do. And if we hadn't done that, we would be a year behind, and a year feels like a lot in this space. So I see some clients where they've got these restrictions where they say, well, we only want to do things, we're only wanting to do things in AI this year that we can see an in-year return from it. We need to be able to see the business case where there's a return this year. And I understand that. Listed companies, they've got that pressure, I really do. But I worry that mindset will mean, well, you're not going to build an agent to replace something because you won't be ready to implement it this year because of all of those governance considerations and so on. However, if you don't get started on agents now, in a year's time, you're going to say, wow, we're a long way behind. Why didn't we start this a year ago? So there's that, it's like there's that balance of investing in the capabilities so that you can get the benefits next year and the year after, but also being accountable in your results. So,
that's a good point. Hey, so Adam, what kind of a company is Quantium today? What is, because you have pivoted the strategy and so on, so how do you identify yourself? What is your core? How do you think about Quantium?
It's a question that should be easier for me to answer than this. So I just say... It's not that tricky.
Yeah. No, but we all, because you're transforming as you speak, right?
Yeah, I would say we're a data and AI company. And so, and some people might say, well, does that mean are you a consulting company? Are you a product company? I'm like, well, we're neither. We're both. We're a company that can help we're passionate about data and AI, and the two go hand in hand. If you just say you're passionate about AI, not data, well, you're just leaving the word data out because you think people will get the wrong impression. But we're very passionate about having amazing data and then being able to apply that in some great way using AI. And so we're into having an impact with our clients. So we're not doing that for theory's sake. We're not trying to build a theoretical model for someone to build. We're not trying to win competitions of let's show that we've got the world's smartest AI model to pass the bar exam or anything like that. We want to apply our data and AI skills to deliver transformational impact for clients. Sometimes that will be via a product, sometimes it'll be via a consulting solution. But any time we're doing a consulting solution, I want it to be something we think we're doing that because it's creating more IP that we could either productise or we could take to others at scale. And we're always trying to create things that make what we do better. So I'm super proud of the work we've done together at Quantium Telstra, because not just, it's been hard. It's not easy doing this sort of work, as you know, but when we can point to it at the end of the year and say, actually, we've eliminated more fraud and that's had a bottom line impact. It's not just about making Telstra more money. It's about, that means you can deliver your products and services to the customers that aren't being fraudulent, more efficiently, cheaper, and so on. So that's work that you can be proud about, not just the way you've done it, but the impact you've had. So yeah, we're passionate about data and AI, and we're passionate about using data responsibly. We don't do, we're not helping cigarette companies make people smoke more. It's not, someone wants to smoke, that's up to them, but we're not going to use data to do that. But we will use data to help companies be more successful and have better customer propositions. And our team really loves doing technically challenging work that transforms the way something's done. They feel like they've had an impact and they've been challenged in doing it.
I remember you always said that the way to keep the best talent, that is to give them difficult problems to solve and then also have access to data, because that's your thing.
Meaningful, impactful, challenging work that's what drives most data scientists. I mean, you've got to pay them fairly as well, of course, but I think most talent like that, they need work that they feel like they've had a positive impact and they feel like they've learnt. They just want to keep learning, most of them.
I always ask in these podcasts, and the last week, the last month, what new things have somehow inspired you or get you to think most that this is still changing, this is still moving?
Okay. I'll have to go in the last 24 hours rather than the last month.
That's how we work.
So, I mean, just yesterday I was in a meeting. I challenged a couple of team members last week. I had a vision for a product we could build. I said, look, listen, I've got this idea of a product. I want it to do this, I want it to do that, I want it to do that. They came back a week later and they showed me something that blew me away. It absolutely blew me away what they'd done in a week, which is the first one of those moments where you're like, wow, this AI world, like, you can just do things in a week that previously would have been 6 months. And so, but then I said to this team, look, I'm worried about our IP. If we built this product, it's surfacing so much of our IP to clients that they could just go in and A, rip it off, and B, edit it and change it and make mistakes and so on. So I said that was my worry. So then they showed me the next iteration yesterday, and they'd built everything via MCP. And so it opened my eyes to the power of MCPs in the AI world, and that everything we build should be via MCP, whether it's we've got a data asset that previously I would have thought everything's API. How do we make this data available? How do we access it? Everything's via API. I think MCP is going to be the new API. We're going to build everything via MCP, which that MCP could be a data asset. It could be a project that we've built in Claude or Copilot or whatever, but it's basically like
it's isolated.
Exactly, an isolated process, it could be our iconography in our design team, all the different ways that we build software products with our icons. It could be, the MCP could be to go to OpenAI and do some deep research on a topic and how we'd go about doing that. But I think that's opened my eyes to think, if that's the world, how do we then surface all of our IP, first of all within Quantium, so that our team can work most efficiently, effectively, and ultimately, is that something that clients could be interested in?
I also think it democratizes large language models, another thing, because you can actually do things more in isolation, so you don't need to have the entire ecosystem, environment every time you do things.
That's right.
That's some of
so MCP. So I'm kind of suddenly thinking, okay, what else could we do with MCPs that I knew they were powerful, but I've kind of, it's opened my eyes a little bit in the last 24 hours. So that's what had me in the shower this morning.
Very good.
Thinking how do we leverage that?
Hey, Adam, we come to an end. Can I just say thank you so much for the partnership. The Quantium Telstra joint venture work on 3 super fundamental things to transform Telstra from inside, and that's our infrastructure, maintenance and power resiliency and these things. It's really our CIQ. It's a world first brain of the customer, and better than anyone. We met with Verizon. They don't include the network data. We do that, and then of course the fraud inside Telstra is a fantastic piece of work as well, and as well the things we do with CBA and the fraud and the scam and these things. It's all not only very strategic for Telstra, but it's very strategic for Australia, and it's foundational work that really will be important for the future. So 3 years into the joint venture, I will definitely categorize our partnership as a huge success. And I think it's also groundbreaking. It was the front runner to our next joint venture we did with Accenture as well, and all things we are looking at. And I think in the industry it's looked like as a way to collaborate in different ways. So I would just like to say thank you so much for your support, your partnership, and your coaching when we are meeting. I love that. Keep doing that.
Thanks, man.
I really appreciate it.
And from our end, mate, I mean, thank you as well. I mean, we're privileged to be able to work with Telstra in the same way. Like, if you think about the things you just described, they all tick the boxes of what our team enjoys working, what I love our team being able to do. We're working with a great partner where you can have a huge impact. I mean, Telstra, you can truly influence important things in Australia through a partner like Telstra that we can't do on our own. You've got amazing data, you've got amazing people with kind of a positive attitude in the right. Like, together, I think we can do great things, which we've done, and it's a privilege to be able to do it. And you know, and I enjoy our conversations as well. It's good fun.
And can I just say the last thing? It was a bit of a tough weekend to be from Manly, so that was a big lose to Bulldogs. But yeah. I must admit, after our conversation and the way you have embraced AI and the culture in Bulldogs, I'm a little bit of a Bulldogs fan.
I'll get you there, man.
So good luck with the comp this year.
Thanks,
I think
man.
you have a good chance to take it the whole
Thanks,
way.
Kim.
So thank you so much for coming, and thanks for joining me today.
No problems, Roman. Thank you.